Ciao, I'm Mario, a Swiss car guy on YouTube, and this is a BMW, my favorite brand, as you might know. This is my friend Emmanuel's car, and this is kind of his ideal family car because it's a BMW. He's a big BMW fan. It's a touring, which means it's a wagon, which he's a fan of as well. Also, this is a diesel, it's a 525D, and it is a manual because he doesn't like automatics. I do. And today I'm not just going to drive and review this car. No. I will also make a cost of ownership calculation because you see, my friend, he kept all the receipts. He's had this car for a little over 5 years, and we are going to do total cost of ownership. And since this is going to be a longer subject, I will split this video up. So basically there will be 2 videos on this wonderfully looking car. One is the review and the other part is the cost of ownership part. So now we will start with the review of this very, very beautiful car. So here it is. Please kill me now. Kill me now. The car obviously has a few battle scars. This is a daily driver, it is a family hauler, and you will see more of it when we go into the inside. Also, we see a little bit of condensation in the headlight, which is weird because it was replaced only very recently. Also a bit of yellow. A bit of yellow never hurts, apparently. We have stock rims. The car is in okay condition. I mean, it's 15 years old. What do we expect? The rear definitely makes this look better than the sedan version, even though the sedan versions are much, much more frequent. And this is the interior. The material quality, I mean, it's plastic, everything. The M Sport steering wheel, it feels nice. It is very chunky. The seats are leather, and as seems to be usual on BMW, it's kind of leather. To me, this is basically leatherette. It's not real leather. It doesn't feel very nice, but then again, I think it is very hard wearing. And this car, after 15 years, even though this is a family hauler, I think it is doing quite well in that department. I mean, the leather seats, they show almost no wear. This is at 147,000 kilometers. My friend Emmanuel obviously is also a fan of multiple carpets in the car because there's a rubber mat here, there is an additional carpet, and then there's the car's original floor mat, which is on the carpet. So carpet on carpet on carpet in this car. And as you see, there is a pedal too many. Don't know what it's for. Oh yeah, it might be for this thing here. The manual transmission, which again is quite easy to shift. The clutch actuation is very easy. It's an okay manual. Inside, everything looks okay. The buttons are in good order, but the buttons have been replaced a couple of times. I think this button has been replaced and this button has been replaced. This is a family hauler. 2 little kids sit here in the back most of the time, and cleaning is not a priority. While this car is very well maintained, it is not very clean, which is difficult when you have kids. With this being a touring, the back hatch is actually one of the better parts of the car because you can open just the top part, and when you do that, the thing here goes up automatically. But of course, you can also open it very normally. And then you have the trunk, which is not massive, but it has a couple of nice little ideas. For example, if you get all this out of the way, you can actually lift this up. It even has a little strut there. And it should theoretically keep this up, but it doesn't because it's, I think, out of its holder there. Yeah, try not to break the car. And then there's like dividers here that you can use to hold things. This is actually quite nice. But obviously it's not used in this car because there's other kind of crap down there. Then of course there are these side compartments that you can access through here, and there you can keep oil and bags and God knows what. And also there's these little belts and stuff to hold things you want to secure in the trunk. Plus other compartments you can open to put stuff in it. So this being a touring, I think the back part is the most interesting part of the car. It's also the least offensive looking. This is a pretty no-frills, bare-bones car. I mean, it's not completely bare-bones, but it has leather interior, it has the navigation, but I think not the large navigation system anyway. And for example, this car doesn't have keyless. And for a car that doesn't have keyless, it's quite dumb because you have to put the key into this thing, and then you cannot just start it. No, then you have to push this button, which is really annoying. And then same thing when you turn the car off, you cannot just take the key off or turn, no, you have to first push the stupid button and then you can get the key off. I mean, what was wrong with just using a key? This car doesn't have phone or Bluetooth or stuff like that, so these buttons do nothing. These buttons do absolutely nothing. Nothing. Nothing! I'm driving a BMW. And I'm not just driving any BMW, I'm driving a manual diesel BMW. Which, if you watch my videos, you will know these are three things I don't particularly like. And in this case it's an E61, so a 2007 5 Series Touring. This is obviously going to be a very biased review. So, what are the first impressions when driving this car while being cut in half by the sun? Well, first off, the car feels quite solid. There are no rattles, it feels nice and planted. It actually feels quite smooth despite having a tractor engine. The engine is quite smooth, it doesn't rattle at all. If it didn't make the sound of a diesel engine, you basically wouldn't even know that it's a diesel. Besides the fact that it doesn't rev past 4,500 revs. Okay, let's see what it can do. So this is a 525, which means it's the 3-liter turbo diesel engine, but it only has 197 horsepower instead of the 245, I think, that the 530D would have. This, however, it was recently chip-tuned against my best advice, and should now produce something in the range of 230 horsepower. And I have to say, the car feels quite healthy. Of course, being a diesel, it doesn't want to really rev, and it doesn't also pay to rev the car out. So you're much better off shifting a bit earlier. But I have to really commend how smooth the engine is. I mean, this is a diesel, but it's an inline 6, so it is very balanced, it is very smooth. And I can understand why people buy BMW diesels, because their engines, they are good. Then again, even if this car has 230 horsepower, of course, it's never going to excite you. But let's not forget, this is a family hauler. And as such, I think it does an admirable job. And since this is basically an only car, I mean, my friend Manu who owns this car, he also owns another car, but the other car is a classic car, so it's not something he would use regularly. This is the kind of car that has to do it all. And according to him, this is basically the perfect car for him. And there are a few reasons for that, because first off, it's a BMW and he is a big BMW guy, has owned several in his lifetime. He even owns a BMW motorbike, if you can believe that. Another thing he loves is tourings, so wagons, which this is. And it has to be a manual because Emmanuel likes a manual. And in this case, he also wants a diesel for economy. So basically a car like this, a manual 5 Series Touring, is something that's quite rare, especially as a diesel. And me being an automatic enthusiast, I understand why, because I mean, sure, a manual is good for sporty driving, but how sporty are you going to drive a diesel? I mean, in this case, quite sporty, but you know, it's not the kind of engine that really rewards you for shifting. I think an automatic would do a good job. That said, the manual gearbox in this car, it's 6-speed. I reckon it's made by Getrag, and it's pretty good. The shifts are relatively short throw, even though I have to say there is a bit of notchiness, but I think this is the case with any manual gearbox, because there's always this romanticism about, you know, a manual gearbox feeling like the loading mechanism on a Winchester rifle, like, but in reality it's never like this. Even this, I mean, it's okay, but it's a bit notchy, it doesn't feel super precise, but as far as manuals go, this is quite decent. It actually pulls very nicely. I don't know if it was like this before the chip tuning, but right now it feels quite decent. And the owner says that the chip tuning made a world of difference. Then again, I am against chip tuning on cars because I reckon that it will shorten the engine's lifespan, or at least the turbos and stuff like that. But this car already has new turbo, so yeah, so that should last for a while. This car also has the stupid BMW indicator stalk that doesn't stay in place, so I'm constantly indicating in the wrong direction, which I don't really like. But then again, it's a BMW, so it's okay for me not to like it, because it's a BMW and I don't like it. Something I really like about the car is the seating position, because you sit nice and low. You have this chunky steering wheel, because this is the M Sport steering wheel. So yeah, it feels quite all right. And everything is good at 10, even though this is, I think, the only BMW 5 Series that doesn't have a dashboard that is inclined towards the driver. But this, I think, is the least of this car's problem, because I think dynamically it drives all right. Power-wise, yeah, even with a diesel, it's fairly good. The problem with this car is actually that, in my opinion, and I know I shouldn't never voice opinions about cars because that never goes well, but I guess I'll never learn. This is one ugly car. I mean, seriously. BMW back there in the early 2000s, they were making ugly freaking cars, and this is one of them. And I remember when it came out, people say, well, you know, it looks radically different, and with time it will age well. I think no. I think it still looks ugly, even now, 15 years later. But this is my opinion, and apparently a lot of blind people buy cars because otherwise they wouldn't have sold as many of those, because I think the E60 and E61 5 Series, they sold about 1.5 million worth. And interestingly, of those, I think only about 300,000 are Tourings, the wagons like this one. So the Tourings are already a bit rarer, and in my opinion they also look a bit better because they don't have the ugly rear end. It's kind of a bit more conservative, it's better looking, and it's a more practical car. I should really say something about the steering, but I never have any impression about the steering. I mean, it's all right. It steers, does what it's supposed to. Does it have a lot of feel? I don't know. I'm not feeling a lot. The clutch actuation is very light, so this is actually a manual I don't really mind driving, especially since the engine is, you can say it's very, very forgiving, meaning that if you forget to use the clutch the moment you come to standstill, it doesn't immediately die on you, but you can still recover it. I personally like it when the engine is a bit more forgiving, when it's not like, oh, you have moved the clutch half a centimeter too much and now the engine stalls. In this case, it's very, very forgiving. It's actually quite good. So let's see how the car handles. Okay. Traction control. Yeah, uphill you feel that it's not that powerful. While the steering is all right, you don't have a lot of reaction, so you need to steer the car quite heavily for it to, you know, lean into a corner, which is all right. This is not a sports car, this is a family hauler, so completely all right. And it's quite torquey because now I slow down in third gear and I accelerate and away we go. So this is pretty decent. All in all, I think for a family car, this car has nice dynamic capabilities. And yeah, despite me not really liking it, but this is more to do with aesthetics and stuff like that, I think it's quite decent. But don't tell my friend Manu, because if he knows I like it, he will never stop it. So that's it. That's my take on the BMW 525d of the E61 generation. This is a facelift model, so it's a bit improved over the original model, but still, I mean, I like the way the car drives. I even don't mind that it's a diesel. Personally, what still kills it for me is the look, the design, the interior quality. I mean, it is improved compared to the pre-facelift version, and also the buttons are in the right place and not, you know, the way they were before. But all in all, I think I can understand why my friend likes this car and why he searched for it so long. Personally, I'm not a BMW guy, but if I was, I could see the appeal in this thing. The repairs is a bit of another story, because this car has been relatively expensive to run, and look at the other video for that. But other than that, it drives nice, it handles well, the engine is powerful enough, it's reasonably smooth, the car is practical, it has space. The only thing that for me could be improved, of course, is rear-wheel drive, and I prefer all-wheel drive, especially in the winter, because up here right now it's nice weather, but in the winter it gets a bit difficult to drive. Other than that, I think this is quite a capable car. I still don't like the way it looks, and since I'm also Italian, looks are important to me. Obviously, right? But that's it for this video. Please comment down below, what do you think of the E61 or the E60, the sedan version? Do you still think they are hideous like me? Or do you think, no, they have aged well, or they were always pretty cars and you love them very much? Comment down below, always interested in reading your opinions. Anyway, leave a like if you appreciated this video, and also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't, and follow me on Instagram at SwissCarGuyMario. But this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day. Bye! Kill me!